You lived briefly in Boston, right?
For 2 years, yeah.
And then Belichick or something, you just couldn't take all the coffee and the angst or something. You left and you went back to New York. When you look at the Patriots and when you were there in their backyard, was there a stark difference between the way they operated and the New York teams or the other teams you've covered? What was your takeaway after 2 years, though you covered the league as a whole, your 2 years covering the Patriots?
Basically that they do a very good job of keeping everything in-house. They do a very good job of speaking with one voice. And they do a very good job of focusing on what's important, which is 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon or whenever they're going to play. They don't let other things get in the way of that. And they had a great coach for that. And they had a really good quarterback for that, a franchise guy for that, who never let the world get in the way. And that's the biggest thing, Colin, with these Patriots. They're a metronome. They're the metronome sporting organization of my lifetime. They just keep going and going and going, and they don't seem to care about the outside world. The ESPN story comes out, what's different in the Patriots? I don't see anything different in the Patriots. Colin, we've always seen, at least in my lifetime, I have thought of Eddie DeBartolo, Bill Walsh, Joe Montana as the gold standard for owner, coach, quarterback. They lasted 10 years, and this owner, coach, quarterback lasted 18 years, and it might be 19. So regardless of all the winds that buffet them from the outside, they just keep going.
Minnesota and New England, to me, would be the best Super Bowl story. The utter dominance and dynasty of Brady Belichick against the Vikings, Case Keenum, underdogs at home. It would be, David Goliath. It'd be a remarkable story. Case Keenum, and I said this earlier, a little bit of alcohol makes you fuzzy. A lot of alcohol makes you lose all perspective. Sports does the same, Peter. We get very emotional with sports, but if there's like Miracle on Ice or Miracle Minnesota win, we lose all of our perspective. And this morning, everybody's like, Case Keenum's a franchise quarterback. Peter, I would have a hard time with that. 6 foot, undrafted, average arm, decent mobility. Only Drew Brees has that physical profile and has been a great legendary quarterback. You can't count Russell Wilson because his mobility is all-time stuff. What do you do if you're Minnesota? You've built a great roster. The front office obviously knows what they're doing. You've got Bridgewater, Bradford, Case Keenum. What do you do at quarterback next year?
Probably what you do is you offer, you go to Case Keenum and you go to his agent and you say, we're going to make you an offer, but we're not going to go crazy. And you offer him basically a Brock Osweiler contract. Maybe 4 years, $70 million, something like that. And you say, is there a little wiggle room? Very little. And, maybe it's not even 4 years, $72 million. Maybe it's 4 years, $60 million. Because think of this, Colin. Brock Osweiler had 7 starts. And he played very, very well in a couple of them, but he wasn't a world beater. But he played well. And so Houston basically way overpaid him for what they thought he was going to do. Case Keenum is a different story. He's an older guy. He's had a lot more experience, and he's had a full season of starting, and he has not disappointed once the whole year. You've seen enough. And if you're Case Keenum, I think one of the things you say, honestly, is, okay, I'd like to stay in Minnesota. This is the place I want to be. But so let's say your offensive coordinator leaves and there's turnover in the coaching staff. And let's say John Elway comes after you. Let's say that the Arizona Cardinals or Cleveland Browns come after you and you think this might be the only time in my life where I get a contract with real money.
Yeah.
I need to go for it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a tough decision. I think Minnesota tries to sign him, but doesn't go nuts.
Big Ben has now called out either Tomlin or the staff 7 times in the last several years. And I thought the timing was very interesting. Ben didn't rip him after the game. In my belief system, he waited for the media to pile on, and then Ben went on a radio show to say, yeah, this coaching staff, without naming names, I would like to do the quarterback sneak. I think Tomlin and Ben have a rift. Maybe it was primarily Todd Haley, who I think is going to leave. But do you think the Rooneys, for a second, have considered, after what was a pretty bad Sunday for Mike and the staff as a whole, do you think they've considered replacing Tomlin?
I don't think so, Colin. I mean, look, there's one coach in the NFL over the last 4 years who's won more games than Tomlin, and that's Bill Belichick. Pretty hard to fire a coach who's got 48 wins in 4 years. It just is. I don't really know how you do it. Now, I wrote something about this morning, and I basically said this. You know, if he had lost the locker room, that's one thing. And are there times where you question his in-game management and his play calling? Absolutely. But I find fault mostly with the play calling on the last series of the New England game, much more than I find fault with anything in this game just past. You know, an onside kick, we can debate whether that's good or bad all year. I mean, the New Orleans Saints could have got killed on the opening drive of the second half of their Super Bowl 8 years ago or 7 years ago, whenever it was, for kicking an onside kick. You know, that it just seemed really dumb at the time, but it worked. And so if something works, it's not dumb.
Right.
But anyway, the point I was going to make about this is the last series of the New England game, you throw it to a guy who can't get out of bounds, Darius Hayward-Bay, with no timeouts left. You're almost panicky going to the line of scrimmage on 3rd and goal at the 7. You don't know what to do. And it looked like a panicky play.
Yeah.
Where then you throw an interception in the end zone. It's just wrong. But look, I don't put that on Tomlin. I don't, because I put that on the offensive staff and on the play caller, Todd Haley. But be that as it may, Mike Tomlin right now understands that he's got some brush fires on his team, his organization, and he's got to fix it, and I think he will.
Are you surprised at all that with Minnesota perhaps seeking a quarterback, Jacksonville's defense, Denver too, 3 of the top 5 defenses in the league, you have a New Orleans situation where before this year they had 3 straight losing seasons. I am troubled by Sean Payton's increasingly juvenile sideline demeanor, which has been odd all year. Are you shocked that Drew Brees wouldn't at least test the market? He says today he won't. Boy, Peter, there's some terrific rosters and defenses. He's more valuable to me than Peyton Manning when he went on his tour because Peyton was coming off neck surgery.
Well, I'm not shocked at that. He's got a comfort level with Sean Payton. And look, he just saw all these new elements, come into his team over the last 2 years. He saw Michael Thomas. He's got 2 very good new elements on his offensive line. He's looked at his defense. They've drafted great on defense. And I think he looks and he says, we are really, really close. And they are close. Colin, they're a miracle play away from playing in the NFC Championship game in a game that they would have to feel confident that they could win. But so that's why, he loves New Orleans. He loves his home in New Orleans. He loves his bi-coastal lifestyle. San Diego for 6 months, New Orleans for 6 months, or that's what it used to be. I think that's what it is. So I would just say, kind of be careful what you wish for. And I think he's comfortable with New Orleans. My gut feeling is he's probably going to stay in New Orleans, but we'll see what happens. They've got to make a deal, obviously.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.